Deep sleep.
She might be.
I'll text her. Oh.
That's her.
Very good.
I was just texting you.
That's okay. Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Scapanello. Resolved that the special meeting commence at the hour of 1:30 p.m. And be it further resolved that the Council acknowledges that we are meeting in the Robinson Superior Treaty Area on lands that have been traditionally used by several Indigenous nations. But we would like to pay special recognition to our closest Indigenous neighbors, the communities of Bitinigon, Nishinabeg, and Pic-Mobert First Nations. We wish to recognize the long history of the First Nations and Métis people in our region, specifically, and show respect to them today. All in favor? I'll call the meeting to order. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we move to the approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Rolla. Resolved that the agenda be approved as circulated. All in favor? There are no delegations or presentations, so we move to the business. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Scapanello. Resolved that the date for a virtual open house draft 2020 budget public meeting will be held at, or is that today's meeting?
No, that's for the second item.
That's for the second. Okay, so the first item, we're going to have the deliberation of the budgets.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. So in front of council, we've put the budget compendium together, and as well as information on some of the methodology to reach the conclusion of a budget. And we can go through and take your questions. We do have another meeting scheduled for Tuesday, and so what the plan is to get through the budget today. If we could look at the whole thing in general, let council know what the content is of the budget, what the capital requests are, and then on Tuesday we'll reconvene and we'll have one manager per time for their department. They'll be able to come in, and all your questions specific to their specific operation, they'll be able to handle those for you on Tuesday. We're going to try and keep track of questions you have today so we can get them into the manager's hands on Monday, and they can then get the work done and have the accurate answers for you on Tuesday that you're looking for over with the budget. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris, and we can start the presentation.
All right, thank you. Excuse me. So how come that didn't? There we go. Budget overview. Our approach is to balance community needs and be accountable to our taxpayers. Maintain what we have where possible and practical, service levels and infrastructure. We need to recognize that municipal revenues are heavily dependent on residential property taxes and Ontario municipal partnership funding. We need to be aware of provincial downloading and decreasing grant revenues in 2021 and beyond. The OMPF, we were successful in getting it this year. We have no idea where that's going to go next year, and that is to the tune of $1.7 million. We need to review municipal operating costs, identify efficiencies, and be aware of planning for our aging infrastructure and financing deficits, asset management plans, and transfers to reserves. The budget process. Municipalities exist under the mandate of the province. We need to follow the Municipal Act and a variety of other provincial acts. A provincial requirement is to prepare a budget. In this public meeting, we'll explain how we are financed as a municipality and how your tax dollars are applied. This year, the proposed tax levy increase is $105,000, $519.89. All budgets have been adjusted for any vacant positions, and the ski hill was non-operational for the 2018-19 season, which reopening costs were much higher than usual. The township has 4 sources of revenue: taxation, conditional and unconditional grants, user fees, which include permits, licensing, and fines, and other revenues such as penalty, interest, rent, sale of land, etc. Property taxation is the municipality's main source of revenue at 51%. It consists of 2 components: the tax base, which is your assessment, and tax rates, municipal and school. School rates are set by the province. We have 0 control. Tax ratios define the municipal tax rate of each property class in relation to the residential tax ratio of 0. Council will approve the tax ratios via bylaw. Property tax rates are also set by council based on the estimated revenue needed to operate and maintain the town services and its infrastructure. Property tax rates are subject to provincial regulations, levy restrictions, or hard capping for multi-residential, commercial, and industrial property classes. MPAC is responsible for determining property assessment valuations based on policies stipulated in the Assessment Act, which was amended in 2007. Properties are valued every 4 years, beginning with the 2009 tax year. 2017 began the 4th year in the cycle, and the assessment for 2020 has increased from 19, and COVID-19 has postponed this year's valuation process, but we need to be prepared for assessment increases in 2021. The town has some discretion to determine the services for which it charges a fee. Some examples are arena rental, landfill, tipping fees, airport landing fees, building permits, water and sewer rates. User fees are reviewed annually and approved by council via bylaw. Licenses, permits, and fines revenue are lottery and building. Conditional and unconditional grants can be provincial or federal. Our main unconditional grant, as I mentioned earlier, is the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. This year we are getting $1,714,400. For the future years, we do not know where we sit with this. We were fortunate to receive this funding this year. The township also receives annual conditional capital grants, which fund road, water, and construction projects. This year we are receiving federal gas tax to the tune of $117,000 and OCFA money, Ontario Community Infrastructure funds, at the tune of $213,000. The township also applies for operational and capital grants as they become available for projects that benefit the township. These include employment grants, accessibility grants, community revitalization plan, and community services master plan. Here is a summary of the proposed budget for the 2020. The total amount to be raised by taxation is $4,219,190. Any questions on that at all?
We'll get into some more detail.
We will get, yeah. Okay. Here is the breakdown by department of our estimated revenues, expenses, our net cost for the 2020 year. We have the cost from 2019 and then the variance for each department.
These are in their package.
Yeah, these are all in the package that was provided to you for. Okay. Where the money comes from, this is where we get all revenues, including grants. This is our anticipation for the year. Revenue by source, user fees at 24%, our grants are at 25%, and taxation 51%. There are three types of accessibility grants: operating, capital, and reserve or reserve fund contributions. And there are two broad categories: controllable, which are administration, fire, public works, community center, etc., and uncontrollable are OPP, health unit, DSAB, ambulance, etc. Council has a decision of obtaining long-term debt or pay-as-you-go. We are currently in a long-term debt repayment, part of our current operational budget. The final installment for this year is $90,000, and that project was done over 10 years, and we are free and clear of any debt.
And that payment gets made.
That payment gets made this month,
Yeah,
yes.
so in June, we will make that payment and we'll have no more outstanding debt for the municipality.
What was that originally for?
That was for the sewer infiltration project where they did the sewer main repairs for groundwater into the system.
Right, okay.
Here's an overview of our operating expenses based on department. That's also in your package. We mentioned the uncontrollable expenses, and here's a breakdown of the last 3 years of items that are uncontrolled, such as police, social services, health unit, MPAC.
Our portion of the ambulance.
Yeah. Staffing and hydro costs are a major expense to the municipality, and here are the budgeted amounts for 2020. We put together a capital sheet, which is also in your package. Here's a summary of the $4.6 million in capital requests. You have the detailed portion in your package. As of today's proposal, here what the impact between 2019 and 2020 would be. The average property in Manitou's assessment value is $43,500. Just for straightforward numbering, we propose a $45,000 assessment property. We go up 0.01% into the tone of 20 cents. And I'd say a $100,000 house would increase by 44 cents.
Basically, a zero-based budget is what we're bringing you today.
44 cents for the annual
the whole
tax.
house.
For the
Your
increase.
tax over last year to this year, if your house is assessed at $100,000, you're going to pay 44 cents difference from last year to this year.
Okay.
In the thing. So basically, there's no change.
One thing that should be noted is the commercial and industrial properties. There was a decrease in school board rates. You will see that they decrease almost 0.5%. So a $250,000 commercial business would see a savings of $101.
Less tax payment than they had last year. And we looked at the cost of living increase for 2020, and usually when we do budgeting, we try to at least maintain that level of increase in the budget or whatever. And for 2020, that's 2%. So we should be looking at a 2% increase in the budget. But we've looked at in detail and made sure we've included everything, and we're actually able to bring it in at basically zero for you today.
Reserve and reserve funds is a critical component of the township's long-term financial plan. It provides financing of capital assets, and building reserve funds is accomplished through the allocation of annual operating surpluses, operational budget allocations, and to sustain asset management strategies. In this year, 2020, we are proposing an operating budget of $110,000 transfer to reserves. In 2019, it was $682,000.
One of the reasons we don't have the auditor's statement is Chris and I had a meeting with them, and by the end of the month, they'll have that back to us with the financial statement for council, and they're verifying all the reserves. We do have healthy reserves as a municipality, and I think once we're through the exercises of the budget, that should be one of our next focuses, is to look at all our established reserve funds, the amount in them, and if they're allocated properly, and come back to council with a report on those reserves and things. Some of them are obsolete, the intent that they were, one example, we have one called GECO Road Maintenance, which was an agreement the municipality had with GECO over the roads, and that agreement's 10 years out of date and redundant. So what we should do is look at that reserve fund and repurpose it in the reserves and make it more accurate. And there's a couple of things that impact the budget greatly. One is tax write-offs, and Chris will show you that information shortly, where we're in excess of $500,000 this year in tax write-off, which is a cost on your budget. And next year, through the work that's been done and getting caught up on things, we hope to see a decrease to around $125,000. So that frees up $400,000 in your budget to be used next year. And same with the debenture payment we talked about earlier at $96,000 will be done. You won't have that payment next year to meet up with. So we're talking in close to $500,000 of availability room in your budget. So we're headed in a good direction as a municipality, and hopefully we can continue on that. So I know there's been a lot of talk about asset management, and every municipality saying they can't get there. And we struggle right now because we've kind of forgot about our 5-year planning, because everybody was talking about going to asset management. Nobody's made that transition. But I think with the healthy reserves we have, we can start to look at the municipality and our commitments to asset management and shift our focus from 5-year planning to asset management and start to look at our priorities in that. And there's some things in the budget that we'll talk about that kind of will take us in that direction as well.
Our current economic situation. Council has the difficult task of balancing the needs of the community, maintaining acceptable service levels, making every effort to strengthen the local economy, provide fairness in taxation, and value for service to our residents. OPP costs are uncontrollable and are reconciled 2 years later, and these costs are on the rise. Provincial downloading and regulatory responsibilities, sometimes leading to uncertainty, sometimes, and escalating operating costs, salaries, heat and hydro, and our aging infrastructure.
On there, you say the OPP costs are uncontrollable and that you said they're on the rise. On the previous screen, it showed a decrease when you had the numbers.
So where were we at?
Look back.
Oh, this one, policing. It went down $690.
Yeah, but it's still...
It's not climbing at a scary rate.
Yeah.
No.
By any means, yeah. We don't have much direct say in that rate or how it's established. That comes from them based on their costing. So
now, is that costing? Is that reflected on the officers servicing Manitouwadge and Marathon together?
It's on the officers serving Manitouwadge and the amount of responses.
Yeah, it's based on the number of call-outs and responses that we have. It's no longer a fixed amount.
Okay, so it's not a patrolling service. It's
No.
It's per call service.
Per call service.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So if
it's,
they have a busy summer, we pay more.
yeah,
That's right.
they expected it to go up. They pretty well warned us that based on this system that your costs will go up unless you become a very quiet and safe community.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do give rebates sometime. We have got rebates in the past. So this is a budget item like every other budget item, and they estimate their annual costs, and they do reconciliations at year end. So we have had those come back in the past as well.
Good, that's fair.
Excuse me, what percentage of the policing costs would be coming from the municipalities? Do you
I don't know what
that,
the
or-
total policing cost for the
No.
area would be.
Okay, the percentage? We pay all.
We pay all for the people that are here, we pay all the costs. We didn't sign a policing contract that would be more expensive. Marathon has a policing contract. When I was mayor before, it was $1.3 million. That was their cost of the police department in Marathon. So they provide 24-hour service all year round. And ours is a limited service. And it's on per call basis. But the other things that you had on that list as well, I think all of those will be subject next year to a substantially higher increase in cost.
Absolutely.
DSAB, the police department, the EMS, and health unit have all, the province has threatened to change the way they do the
Formula.
accounting for that. So, like for instance, the health unit will go from 35 units to 10 units, and your cost will go up substantially. So we have to be aware of that for next year and forward.
So we did public comments via SurveyMonkey. We put out 10 questions. We provided you at a regular meeting of council with a summary. Mr. Cranny and myself vetted them, took the relevant comments, and we give you a best of 5 per se per each. Some of them were lengthy, so we just give you a bit of a brief breakdown. So how would you rate the township's winter maintenance operations? We got excellent work this year, done in a timely manner, good job. This winter seems to be better than the last few. Workers seem to be out more frequently than in the past, and roads are plowed quickly and snowbanks are kept at a decent height. How would you rate the township's waste management, garbage collection, landfill site, etc.? We'd love to see the dumpsters available all year round. We need to be recycling. They're doing well, giving notice when there is a change, and courteous collectors. Too many plastic bags, and garbage pickup time is consistent every week. How would you rate the township's water and sewer services? Old equipment, broken pipes, time to replace. We should not have to pay for water. Problems are usually solved as promptly as possible. We'd like to see the water lines redone so that there are not so many breaking every spring. We need to replace old infrastructure before more leaks occur, given with such old pipes. How would you rate the township's financial services? Taxes are high, shouldn't pay for water. It would be nice to see lower taxes and water bills, a clearer tax bill. Obviously, more industry in town to lower the tax rate would be great, and no interest should be charged on the current year. How would you rate the township's recreation facilities? Accessibility boardwalk to the beach and lake, keeping our public library, rec center, and golf course has been good for the town. Nice to see the skate park complete and the ski hill open. A lot of money spent to keep facilities operating, but very few people use. It's fantastic that it's kept open even with the lower tax base. The skate park and ski hill are especially nice additions. How would you rate the township's recreation programming? I feel the auditorium should be utilized for numerous activities from youth to senior. We'd like more for seniors. We offer a great variety of activities for all ages, trying new ideas and new partnerships, i.e. the library, and wish they offered more programs. How would you rate the township's special events? Nice to see fireworks back. We'd love to see more go on for events like these. Fireworks have been awesome. More games and events needed. Accessibility. More money is needed to promote these events and participation. For a small town, we're fortunate to have the activities that we do. How would you rate the township's library services? Great and varied activities, excellent service. They offer a lot to residents, excellent facility, and I can't recommend good or bad as I do not use the library. How would you rate the township's protective services? Could enforce property maintenance laws on more homeowners. I think they do a good job, feel really safe here. Do find that the police and fire department here in town are top-notch, and we are lucky to have them. It doesn't seem that much is done to address property owners keeping property to a standard. Additional comments? I think Manitouwadge is heading in the right direction. We're doing a great job. It's nice to be able to provide input. Manitouwadge is a great community to live and play in. Keep hiring qualified people, and things will only get better with time. Our township does a good job for our community. Our taxes are high, on the high side, but understand that a reduction in taxes would equal a reduction of services. We'd like to see positions filled quicker at the township rather than having one or two people trying to manage multiple departments. Creates jobs and allows each job to be done to the highest standard. Thank you for all your work and for seeking the input of the community. Well done. Any questions? Yep.
Maybe we want to put the capital slide up and we can talk about some of the projects that we're looking at for 2020. Then we can go back to this slide or the other something in general, or the ones that have keynotes on them.
Go to the top.
Yeah. So we'll just go over the list of capital projects for 2020 that we're looking at doing. Asset Management Works Modules is that was funded through the NWMO fund, so that they paid for this program. We are now implementing staff training, and this will handle and track all our work orders, and will feed the work done and the information into the asset management program, so that as we go forward, we'll have good data to look at our equipment and structures and facilities to see where best spend our money and what needs to be replaced or not. The iCity Online is the Paymantis program that we talked council with early in the year. This also was funded by the NWMO, and that's our online payment that's going to give a lot more option to the community. And we're seeing an increase right now with COVID. It's unfortunate we didn't have this system in place for this event, and we've had a lot of residents doing e-payments, electronic payments. So this will increase the number of financial institutions we'll be able to take payment from. It will also allow the residents to go online, look at their bills, look at their balances, and track where they're at based on their payments. So some people pay $100 a month on their taxes, whatever. They'll be able to go in and look at their balance and see all this in real time and current. So we're hopeful. I don't know the date, Chris, so we're on track for.
We had some issues with the server to the manufacturing plants being closed. Our IT was in yesterday, and I'm really anticipating the training will start next week.
Oh.
So that would be
question. Sorry,
yeah.
Through the chair. Does this program mean, for example, your taxes over the course of 12 months? Would you be able to pay so much a month rather than?
Well, you can pay monthly, you can pay bi-weekly as it stands, but yes, you'll be able to do the same with this program. You'll be able to log in, you'll have a username and a password, you'll be able to log in and pay directly from there.
So right now we're doing two billings. We do an interim.
We're doing two billings.
Interim and a final.
Right.
So we'll get the system and take have a look at the operations. As Chris alluded to, when you see your interim bill that it's due 4 months down the road, you can start yourself because you can see it in real time in your payments and your outstanding balance online now as you go ahead and start to pay that bill down by the due date. So as opposed to increasing, and maybe we get switched enough to electronic that we used to do quarterly billing years ago, and then we reduced it to 3, then we reduced it to 2. But the public will be able to get a more direct view of their billing and the amount outstanding and the impact of payments they've made on that balance.
Thank you.
Yeah. The community revitalization study plan, that's the program that the Economic Development Officer is working on, and we've had a number of meetings. Those videos are posted online for the public to see, and the rebranding and that work is going ahead. In spite of COVID, we've been having Zoom meetings and doing that work, and plan to carry on with that. The community relationship study is again something that we got funded through the NWMO, and it's to work on a First Nations relation study for the community, and basically COVID has set that work aside. So we will continue as soon as the situation changes and we're allowed to get back to that work, 'cause we want to meet with the neighbors and things like this over that program. So, the Golden Age Club commercial kitchen upgrade, this year we received a $25,000 grant towards that project. We got that information and money just about the time that COVID hit again, so the club is closed. We haven't had meetings with them. The grant did come to the municipality, so we'll be involved in the management of what they do and the work, and it's just a matter of when we can start to have meetings with that group and look at moving this forward.
Question on that. So they have, they moved into the new building.
Yes.
So what is this upgrade for? There's a sort of kitchen in there now.
Yeah, and they want to have a full-blown kitchen in there and get going. So this will bring them up to, hopefully get them close to standards for the current building code and fire code laws for commercial cooking entities.
Oh, okay.
And that's what they're looking at doing. So, obviously it's to meet the needs of the group, and the group are going to have to determine what those needs are, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
But
Sorry, I don't mean to.
Yeah.
Could you back up to revitalization, the 82,000?
Yeah.
Now, where was that funded from?
That was nuclear waste money as well.
It was as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Council
sorry.
approved those funds through the Community Wellbeing
Right.
Fund.
Yeah. So that was approved through that. That work is, I don't know, I wouldn't say we're halfway, but it's well started and underway. Yeah. And the next item, the 25,000 for that relation study, was also NWMO. This particular 25,000 is a grant for us as well. And I don't know if we've received those funds yet or not, Chris. No. Sorry, we haven't, but we're in the process now, and we've had the announcement and everything, and COVID has kind of slowed that down. The next item is property standards. This has been identified in the strategic plan. We see it in the survey results from the public about property standards in town and having that. So we've put money in the budget for that, and the bylaw officer's been working. We need to do a couple things. We need to have some public input and start the process of what those standards will be. We also need to train council, because they will be the property standards committee. So there's training that council would have to do, and there'll be some staff training involved as well to formulate the bylaw, enforcement of those bylaws and stuff. There is specific property standard officer training available through the province for this. So we funded that. Again, whether we get out from underneath the current restrictions for the province, or maybe we just have this identified, we have the funds available, and it doesn't happen until early next year. But it is something that's identified in our strategic plan and to work towards. And that's funded through the current year revenue fund. The next item is the official plan and zoning bylaw. This is a long-standing overdue project for the municipality. That's been deferred for all kinds of reasons over the last couple of years. I tried to get a present situation on the work ongoing there, and the fellow that's doing that is off work sick at this time and has been off for a few months right now. So I don't have a clear answer when we can resume that work, but again, it is a priority. We need to get our official plan up to speed with current provincial policy statements and the current zoning bylaw. And that is a revenue fund expense. The next item is COVID costs. We funded this out of transfer from reserves at this time. We've spent approximately $25,000 to date due to COVID. We have other costs we haven't tracked yet for things like waiving the tipping fees at the landfill site. We're going to track all those costs and compile all that. We don't know at this time if or what the province is going to do or the federal government to do for municipalities due to COVID. The Federation of Municipalities of Canada has written letters to the federal government looking for support for municipalities due to COVID, as well as some of the AMO and some of the other groups, NOMA and those groups, have also written letters looking to the province on what's going to be eligible or if anything at all. very little talk on this right now. They are spending a lot of time and effort on the stimulus package for businesses, individuals that are displaced from employment, and those kind of things. So we've funded this, tracking the costs with a hope to recover some of these from the province. And we'll just have to work through this as we go forward. Backup generator for this building. This is recommended for continuity of operations from an emergency standpoint. This would provide both the fire hall and 100% of the municipal office building. And it's recommended that that project get done this year. The next line is a portion, you'll see it in the operating budget under administration as well, which is the tax write-offs this year. As I mentioned, we have reserve funds that are established by bylaw to cover those costs. These are usually stemming from long-term problems, and as I mentioned, we're getting that problem resolved. This year is in excess of $550,000. So we have a reserve fund established that is roughly $1.3 million. So we took a portion of that fund right now to keep the budget costs in balance and to do that. So that's coming from a reserve fund that's established for that purpose. I'll go on to the fire department. This is a transfer from reserve, so it's a revenue cost this year, and this is part of asset management and looking at the replacement of SCBA for the fire department. It won't happen this year, but we do have to get the fund in place in the next few years. Those units this year are 20 years old, and that. So we do have working on a plan to have a fund established for replacement when that time comes.
What is SCBA?
Oh, pardon me. Self-contained breathing apparatus. So this is the air packs and stuff that the firefighters wear at fires. As I mentioned, they're 20 years old, and I want to get planning done for replacement for those. The next item is to do with bunker gear, and this is to clean and wash. We send our bunker gear out right now for clean and wash, but there's been a lot of focus in the last couple of years on cancer prevention, and what they're suggesting is that we have what they call gross decon at the fire site, so not even getting back in the truck after somebody comes out of a building fire. We would have included in this is a wash down where you would hose the guy, kind of scrub them off at the scene before they get back in your equipment and bring all these hydrocarbons with them and back to the fire hall. And then it includes a dryer that would be in the hall, so now you take that wet gear, get it dried so we can get it back into service quickly. So this would cover that. We will still be sending gear out right now, and again, it's really come to light during COVID. We've had a couple calls, and some people have got some blood on their gears and stuff, so we're having to hose people down, and we come back, and this lets us get the gear dried right away, get it back into service. So if we happen to get another call, we're not going with wet gear or having sopping gear to go out with. So that's to complete that. The next item is under the airport. As council knows, last year we funded a repaving study and scope of work and geotechnical work at the airport. It was council provided $35,000 in the capital budget last year. We've completed that work, and timing was really good for us to have that done because the Infrastructure Canada Improvement Plan grant announcement came out, and airports were eligible. There's going to be 3 rounds of this funding, and airports were only eligible in the first round. So we applied, and we've got our letters back. We're successful. We've received a grant of $3.1 million for repaving the runway. The cost is estimated by the engineering firm at $3.3 million. So that would leave a $181,000 cost for the municipality that we plan to fund from our reserves for infrastructure replacement. So we're having a meeting on Monday morning with the engineering firm to look at the scope of work and to get our tender document in place that we can go ahead and hopefully have that work completed this summer.
excuse me, to the chair question on that. Is that basically to bring the airport back to the original, like back to brand new, or is that an improvement like for size or anything?
No, it'll be exactly the same size runway we have right now. So right now we're 100 feet wide, 3,600 feet long. We did look at extending the runway, and I don't predict the near future demand to be that requirement. You know, obviously the change of NWMO has changed the priorities or the potential for the community. So I think we'll stay at the present size. And if something does major happen in the community, the infrastructure at the airport will be in good shape, and we could do that in a future date. But the runway is 30 years old. There's extensive cracking, alligator cracking in the air, in the runway. We had a study done, I think it was 2010, that recommended at that time that we consider repaving. So we've been biding our time because it is an expensive thing, and we were hoping for some kind of outside source for funding to get that done, and we've been successful.
So through the chair, with our airport being the length that it is now, are we not limited to the type of aircrafts that can land there?
We are, but all of the customer base we have right now is we're more than adequate for. The only thing that possibly would ever come in here that we can accommodate right now is the Water Bomber 415 for the M&R. I've had meetings over the years with the M&R about that issue, and quite simply the message is that if there was a fire right close to Manitouwadge, they may come in during the day for some fuel, but they would not spend the night because they have to go back to their normal bases of operation, which is Geraldton and Chapleau and Hearst, because that's where their maintenance facilities and their maintenance crews are. So they go back and get their maintenance done overnight. So we're talking quite a bit of money to extend the runway, and I just don't see the payback at this time.
Yes, so through the chair, with more jobs type like fly in, fly out, if potentially we had a longer runway, do you think that Manitouwadge could be a base for those types of jobs?
Certainly, if we had a good interest in that, we're probably talking in excess of, I hate to say a number off the top of it, $600,000 or $700,000 to extend the runway. That much more than we would need for things. Q300s and 400s, like they fly into Musselwhite, is kind of the aircraft of choice for that operations. And we've looked at that again, and right now the potential is not there where I would recommend to council to spend that extra money right now to accommodate that. If we had an agreement or someone approached, I think we would take a serious look at that, but it's not there right now. When you look at the airport overall, this is going to place us in really good position for long term for the municipality. Since 2008, when I took over the airport, we've upgraded the fuel system. We've put automated weather observation in. We have a GPS approach, which is getting re-verified this year, and it's identified in the budget. We have what we call two-dimensional GPS right now for our airport, and which helps a lot for getting aircraft in bad weather. And when we do the verification this summer, we're actually going to make it three-dimensional. So basically, aircraft will come down to, I think it's 250 feet. So if they can come down and see the runway, they can land. So for us, getting boarded medical flights is going to greatly be reduced at very little cost to us. So we're hoping to complete that work this summer as well. The next, so the airfield lighting was a concern when I took over. We've had a couple of failures of that system and stuff. In-house, because we sent staff out for training, we were able in-house to go ahead and convert all that lighting to LED and do all that work in-house just through our operating budget and over a number of years. So we're not 100% complete that exercise, but I would say we're probably close to 90% complete of converting all our runway lighting to LED. So I'm pretty happy with the overall facilities out there and the long-term vision of the airport with new fuel system, weather observation, GPS approach. We repave. I feel good about the long-term stability of the airport and the future costs for the community.
My only concern is that we repave the airport, and over time, our economy continues to decrease. I mean, with a fly-in, fly-out type community-based area, we would potentially be able to get more people here to town.
Yeah, we've tried, we've had conversations with some of the operations, and we're just not getting a lot of traction, and to say where I would recommend in a position to go ahead and do that, we had some potential, and obviously NWMO was a potential. If that would have been here, we'd be having a different conversation today, and I would have had that, once we knew we were successful for this, we would have looked at the additional engineering costs and had those discussions, but it's not something I'd recommend right now at this time. The single next biggest improvement, if you want to have regular operators at your airport, is a hangar. That's the next biggest improvement at the airport.
That's where I was going next. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope I answered your question. So where are we at? So the airport capital. Public Works, just to give you an idea on what's in here, they're looking for another 3/4 ton pickup truck. And we'll let Terry get into the specifics on these. If you have any questions today, I'll mark them down. But on Tuesday, when we get the managers in, they can speak in greater depth. The MT5 is the next item, is the sidewalk plow. And what they're looking at doing is, I didn't know, there's a program where they do a total rebuild. So, Terry has been through that exercise before, and it's considerably savings over purchasing a new machine. So he's recommending that we do a total rebuild on the system we have, and it comes with the modern controls, new cab, and full warranty. So I think he said the number was like $50,000 less than just walking out tomorrow and buying a new sidewalk plow. So he's recommending that.
So on that, would that be like send it out now in the summertime, have it done, and then have it back before winter?
Yes, I think he said 6 weeks turnaround. So you would send it out now once we get the budget approval, if that's council's wishes, and then we would have that machine. It is an aging machine, and we're getting things like the pins and cylinders and hoses, and all the stuff is very tired on it. We use it consistently all winter long. And we also have we bought what they call a batwing mower, which is a lawnmower attachment for it as well. So there is summertime use for that machine as well. And street sweeping, we have a small broom attachment. So it gets used a fair amount on an annual basis. A dump trailer, there's lots of places and small projects where this would be handy. We have a particular sewer job we have to do where access is going to be a problem, and this will help facilitate that. And there's a number of times where this would be a handy asset and worth the cost. The next item, and I'll let Terry get into more in depth, is a snow pusher. And we have one now, but it's not really the right one for what we use. They make angle with the power flights on the end, and he sees a great efficiency could be gained for downtown cleanup time and the work that we're doing there. So he's looking for that. The next item is a Twister-ish, which fits the small Mini X that the municipality got, I think it was 2 years ago. And it makes your bucket a lot more versatile and better. Right now it's not well suited for ditch cleaning and shouldering. But again, he's coming and recommending this, and it allows him to do sloping and grading, pulling the ditch material up and then grading along the shoulder of the road and recovering. He says they basically pay for themselves. The next item comes from a Ministry of Labor order from last summer, and we were written up for improper fencing of our dig sites overnight. The Labor Act calls for a 1.5 meter fence, I think it is, around all our dig sites we leave unattended. So right now we were using the wooden barricade, perimeter barricades. That doesn't meet the standard. So we reached an agreement with the Ministry of Labor for snow fence to finish out the year. Obviously, we need to change up what we're doing. So this is to buy a portable fencing that can be put up around these digs and a trailer to have all that. So the idea is that we would have the fencing and all the stuff that we need for digs in a trailer, kind of complement the water brush. Here comes the tools, here comes the fencing setup, and take care of that health and safety concern for us. Paving, they've done the calculation on the amount of cuts and places we have asphalt dug up right now. This is a gas tax, Chris?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, gas tax funded project, so it's not on the revenue fund. And I've had discussions with Terry about the paving project at the airport, and we're hoping that we can get the tender in the short order and have a paving contractor to come in. So we're going to put this in the budget, hold off till we find out if we can get the airport paving, and then we would ask that contractor for pricing on the work. And we're hoping, because they're in the area, they have all the equipment doing the large-scale project, that we can get that work done fairly efficiently for the community. So once we'll know in the next month so what the process of that. And if we can't get it done, he's been reaching out to availability of other contractors that would take a small paving job like that and come to the municipality.
Okay, through the chair. I noticed it's 200,000 basically for road repairs in town is what that looks like. Now, wasn't last year up over 300,000?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe Chris can pull that up for us.
Yeah, no.
We did a lot of spot repairs last year. If you recall, we had Pioneer Construction in, and they did quite a bit of paving for us.
So last year, we anticipated the use of all gas tax funds that were provided to us last year. None was done. There was no work completed.
Didn't we have Pioneer? Was it last summer or the summer?
It was
before?
2 summers.
Okay,
Yeah.
pardon me.
So there was no road repairs. That money, the gas tax, it's allocated. We have the money. None of it was spent, and that's what we're utilizing. This year we only got $117,000 for gas tax. So we're taking a portion of the money from before. We have a balance with gas tax funds that are readily available to us.
So what was our budgeted figure last year?
Last year was the full 250 one that we received.
So 250 plus the 200? Is that
No,
what
no,
this
the
is looking
250
at?
was never done.
It was never done.
250 plus 117.
Was it-
That's what you said, eh?
Yeah, we got one. We got.
It sits in the gas tax
It just
reserve.
sits in
It's a gas tax reserve fund.
So shouldn't that 200 be a lot more then on roads?
We could, and I know last year it was a lack of staffing and stuff at Public Works Management issues last year, and we didn't get that work done. So, and we've said this to council before, and Terry's well aware of this, and we're dealing with Aqua, that we need to get into water and sewer main inspections to at great depth before we go paving whole streets. This is basically utility cut repairs and major problem areas, not a repave of a whole street.
Through
Right, but, sorry. But what I'm saying is, to me, that sounds to be one of the biggest complaints of the public.
It is.
To get the streets. And I don't think it matters if it's the whole street or patches, but it just needs to be done. This is where I find the biggest complaint. So whatever the amount is we have to spend it and get that pavement out there, whether it's the town or a contractor.
Through the chair.
Terry is saying that they can do it using the contractor that's coming in for the airport.
Correct.
He should be able to lower our costs, but that doesn't mean they'll only spend 200,000. There's more in the gas tax account.
yes, oh, yes.
So
We
they
would come back to council.
us, council, and
Come
say
back to council
the
and ask for release of
200,000
more
is not
funds.
enough. We need the additional.
Yeah, that's, through the chair, that's what I was getting at. If
Yeah.
there was unspent money last year and
Yeah.
an allocation this year,
Yeah. There's
That should be-
670,000 in that reserve fund.
that's
So they
what
can
I
always
was kind of
pay back.
Yeah, no, I
guessing in
understand.
my
Yeah, no.
head. I'm not
Yeah.
good at math.
Yeah, it's 670 actually in that reserve fund. And you're right. If we look at, and what Terry did is he went out and measured all the utility cuts and how much, and has a square meter of what we need to do. And he's also talked to one paving contractor, I think it's actually next week. They're talking about coming to town and having a look at other areas and give him some recommendations on what they could do. If there's some subgrade work to do and paving of the problem areas, and increase this number. And we would come back to council with that information and maybe adjust that. It wouldn't be a budget impact because it would be coming out of the reserves.
So through the chair, are we currently doing any type of patchwork right now?
Ongoing, we've been doing with our own in-house equipment. We've bought some cold patch this year and did some already, and I believe there's more of that planned as well. Some of the smaller pothole type stuff and things like that. So we were working on that, and cleanup week came, and we kind of got off that paving project, and I'm sure you'll see them back out here right away shortly to address continuing pothole work.
So through the chair, we're not sure on this contract coming yet. We're just
The
unsure.
paving?
Yeah,
For the
so
airport?
my question would be that once it's confirmed something is going to happen, would there be a notice to the public? There may be people interested in driveway paving that could
Yeah, if there was a,
help, and
certainly if the contractor is interested in taking on that extra work, we would help
Let the public
facilitate
know.
that in town. Yeah, for sure. It depends, like, they're coming to do a large-scale job with big equipment at the airport in the street. May not be conducive to driveway work, but certainly, we would make that option available to them, and if we could have that opportunity in town, it would certainly be good. Okay, where are we at here? Paving.
One more. Parks equipment.
Oh, that's lawnmowers. So right now, we have one ride-on lawnmower for the municipality, and it's 15 to 20 years old. And this is looking at replacing in two zero-turn, 60-inch wide ride-on mowers. We see the students out, and they would put that equipment to work. I think Terry said we could probably have that in service here once the budget's approved in a matter of a few weeks. Okay.
Recreation.
Okay, so recreation, and again, Shelley will be available on Tuesday for any in-depth question you have. So there's playgrounds, $30,000 request from the revenue fund. So through the getting the budget prepared for council, we've had talks about best course of action, and you'll see. So right now, that's identified as a cost. And it's a transfer to reserves, so we would put that money into reserves, and I'll explain why in a second. Kitchen upgrades at the golf course, $10,000 from the revenue fund. That's already got pre-approval through council. That work's underway, and with COVID, we're closed, but we're hoping to proceed and get that stuff done.
Quick question on that. Because of COVID, it is closed, but the golf course is opening, but the kitchen will not be open.
The kitchen is not open right now.
Okay.
The legislation allows us to open for takeout only. Whether we go there or not, that's another question.
Okay.
It might be so minimal, it might not be worth, paying the staff to be there for the little bit that you're going to do. So,
Right.
Those are discussions that we will have and continue to have as we get through this process. And they say the province is coming out daily with announcements and stuff, so who knows what we're going to see. And that. The ammonia plant fan heater is an issue with the ice making plant for the arena and curling club. We had an engineering review, and this has been identified as something we need to do right away, and it's $45,000 and work that should be done this year. Community services master plan for $100,000. We've had lots of discussion. This has been identified a number of years about for the community to do this. If council recalls, when we looked at the strategic plan, the review commented that we have too much recreation for a community our size, so that comment is out there. There's also aging infrastructure and a lot of costs to come in the future to maintain and keep that infrastructure. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. So at this time, I believe it's advisable to go ahead and spend the money on the master plan study. I know it's $100,000, but if you're talking about spending millions, it's a small cost, and I think it will help council focus on what they need to look at and what the community values as their recreation. So we do have a grant application out right now for, is it $4 million, Chris?
Yeah.
We have a grant application out right now for $4 million for improvements at the rec center, and our portion of that would be $1 million.
Yeah,
$1 million that council would have to fund. So when you're going to spend $100,000 to make these decisions and study it, I think it's well advised. What I've talked to the rec director about is that the scope of the study should be a topic that gets drafted and comes back to council for your review and approval before we get into the study. So council understands the content and the context of the study that we're going to get into.
Okay, through the chair. Would that in some way be integrated with the community revitalization plan? Because it sounds to me like it's the whole big picture thing, the same as what that committee's doing.
It's very similar. This would be targeted specifically at recreation facilities, and we're hoping to be able to give you some condition reports in those facilities, talk about the fees, the sustainability, those kinds of issues in the in the report.
Okay, so it shouldn't be.
We won't
Same
study
job
things
done
that, we
twice.
won't overlap the study,
Okay.
scope of study won't overlap.
Right, so it's just an overall
Yeah.
improvement to what the committee's going.
Well, it's a totally standalone document and a standalone thing. And we've talked, we had one done, I think, in 2002. And it's really time again. You know, community has a sense of direction again, you know, with, I hate to dwell on that fact, but NWMO was a big, you know, we were all hopeful about that. That's changed our look at our community. So it's probably a very good time to refocus on the infrastructure of recreation infrastructure and where we're going with it.
Through the chair, does this also make it so that when government money becomes available, grants and stuff like that, that we have a shelf-ready project per se?
Well, the study will identify projects, and then we would have to take that thing and get it put as shelf-ready. And that's an area we're lacking, and we need to have more shelf-ready projects, because there's an airport as an example. If we wouldn't have committed that, getting it to be a shelf-ready project last year, we would not be in a place today to get that grant. We had all that documentation done, and we're able to submit it with our application.
Through the chair, so that's basically where we'd be going with this money as well, right? To
help you focus on what on those shelf-ready projects, for sure.
Thank you.
That's you know, like I say, it's been a topical issue for a number of years, but I think we're at a good impasse right now to undertake that study. Pool repairs. Apparently over the winter we developed some issues with the pool again, and this is the amount identified to make those repairs. Again, right now at this time, pools aren't allowed to open, and we're not sure if or when. So we've had those conversations, but we need to, if we do get permission, we need to have this in place, and we need to have it done before we can open. So we basically have two issues at the pool. One is staff qualifications. Well, we need to get our maintenance staff some training, which isn't available right now. And so I've worked with the rec director. She's searching to look for availability of online training. A lot of these courses, the firms are switching and making stuff available online right now because communities need it. So hopefully that becomes available, and we'll take advantage of that. But we are, again, looking at the pool. And if it's not, maybe the government doesn't even allow us to open this summer. And then we would have be getting into our study and good information to come back to council about the asset and the future of it.
Through the chair, I'm sure this has probably been brought up in the past, but is it a possibility to make it an enclosed structure?
I would, and that
that
could be part of your study if you
Okay.
want to include that in your study. By all means, council.
Yeah.
But I would think that related, what I'm hearing about the issues we have right now with the pool, the underground piping and the concrete condition underneath the liner and stuff are some of the major concerns. So I'm not sure if that juncture is viable. I know that's been looked at over the years in the community.
Yeah.
But I think you would probably look at a whole new pool if you were going to go down that path.
Yeah, it seems to me if you've got an indoor pool as opposed to an outdoor pool, you're going to have less of weather-related problems.
Yes.
Than
And
you-
more use, obviously.
And
You get
more use.
year-round use and stuff, certainly. And, I would suggest that when the scope of the study comes back to you, if that's something particular, that you would ask to have that included in the study.
Okay.
Roofing, snowmobile. So this is for a replacement at the ski hill. Unfortunately, we had a fire this winter and burnt their snowmobile to the beyond salvageable things. And it was old enough that the insurance was minimal. So we've identified that for the ski hill to be replaced for this year. The next one is a transfer to reserves for future replacement of maintenance equipment at the golf course. And the idea, again, is to put that into reserve funds and include that stuff in the study of the golf course, in the study for recreation facilities. So building reserves for that stuff. And carry on.
Through the chair, can you back up there?
Still in recreation?
Yes, because you were talking earlier, we've got a $100,000 master plan to do, and the scary part is the millions on the rec center. Has it been looked at and everything prioritized? What is the top problem? Like if we're dealing in millions of dollars in the future here, I know, I'd like to know what are the absolute top priorities down to the bottom, because we're going to have to be faced with that by the sounds of it.
Yeah, there is some engineering studies done on roofing conditions, on ventilation. There's a number, every asset of the facility or everything, the mechanicals, the barrier-free access, the life safety facilities or stuff in the building, that all needs to be looked at. And that we have a number of studies over the years, so all that stuff would be made available to the person doing the master plan, recreation master plan. When they look at the feasibility of the facilities, that would be part of that.
Okay.
It sounds like a lot of money, but we talked to another community that just had one done. Theirs was $120,000 for their master plan and stuff. So.
No,
To me, I know it's a lot of money, but when we're talking about millions expenditures and setting priorities, I think it's sound investment to help you guide you through those decisions.
Thank you.
And that's why the majority of money that we're requesting, not the majority, but a number of items that were identified, we met with the rec director and said, let's put them into reserves and see what the read of the study says and act on them next year. We're into June already here, and we have a lot of stuff to deal with and facilities that aren't even open due to COVID this year. So there's a lot of things in play right now. And the government tomorrow they can make an announcement that pools are good to go. But we don't know that yet. So okay, so that's the capital request for 2020. If there's any other questions? What are we doing for time, Chris?
2:37.
I think we're doing good.
So we go into
Yeah, sure. If you want to have a look, we can go into the operation by departments if you'd like to look at that, or where council would like to go next.
I'd like a drink of water.
Okay, yeah, certainly. Want to take a break for a couple of minutes?
So we have a resolution for taking a break if we're...
Sure, if you want a 5-minute
Take
stretch
5
break or
minutes.
a washing break.
Yeah, 5-minute break. I'm good with that.
Do we need a mover and a seconder?
Jim and Mike will do it. I'll read it and they can sign it after. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Scampanello, resolved that the special meeting recess at the hour of 2:38 to reconvene at the hour of 15 minutes from now, 2:53. All in favor?
I just wanted a 30-second break to get a glass of water.
No. I'm going to stretch.
Oh boy.
Bring my keys.
Yes. Yeah, sorry I was a little late.
Don't break your phone.
Oh, you were.
I was on time. I meant to be here a few minutes early, but getting up from that First Nation meeting.
No.
I don't even know how you guys do it. Yeah, I do have these machines.
Unrelated. Well, I guess it is kind of related.
They're all. Oh, did you get a chance to
There's-
read that email? For the,
Am I missing? Is it? Okay. Thank you.
Since everybody's here and ready to go, I'll restart the meeting. Moved by Councillor Scapanello, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that the meeting is hereby declared to be open to the public at 2:47. All in favor? Thank you. Mr. Cradley, you're on.
Okay, so we've kind of took a first run through everything in the budget. I'm not sure if there's particular areas where council wants to get deeper into the budget. If you will, we can do that. So this is the summary of all the departments. If there's a particular department you'd like to look at, just ask, and Chris can pull that budget up, and we could look at particular questions or items of concern that council may have.
And there was a summary sheet in the package you have provided with everyone. So if you just get a better look, you can go from there if you choose, or...
Yeah.
I would think it would be better for everybody to take this home and take a look at it themselves and see if there's anything they want to ask the various department managers about. In the meantime, we should probably settle in when the next meeting is going to be.
We already have one scheduled for Tuesday at 1:30. The big question about the meeting that has to be addressed by council is the 14-day public notice requirement.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, the 14-day public notice requirement.
Okay,
so that would be the 19th of June, which unfortunately is a Friday again. And so what we could do is we have Tuesday scheduled for the managers to come in and talk about any particular questions you have for their operations. And then we could do that on Tuesday. And then if we set a meeting for the 19th of June in the morning for the public meeting, and Jolene has drawn up a process for the public to have input. So, and we would make that information available to the public right away, so that as part of our notice provisions. Obviously, with COVID, there's some restrictions on what we can do. So what we've talked about is to give them a chance to email in comments, write in comments, obviously talk to a member of council if they so choose, and then on the day, with prearranged, if they provide their phone number, we could call those people during the time and put them on the speakerphone, and they could have a chance to comment on the budget that way as well. So we think we've developed a pretty inclusive process for the public to provide feedback to council about the budget. So, and if we could do that on the 19th is the earliest because of the notice provisions. And if everything was good with council, we could have it on the agenda. We would know that morning, and we could have it on the agenda of June 24th, which is a regular council meeting, and you could look at finalizing the budget at that meeting if council chose.
Is that satisfactory for you?
So that gives council 2 more meetings, which is the 9th and the 19th, to ask any questions or dig into any areas you'd like to go of the budget.
Through the chair, I'd really like the opportunity to take it home and look, because trying to get you questions for Monday for the Tuesday meeting.
Yeah, there's a lot to absorb here. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Chris and I have been over this thing I don't know how many times in the last 3 weeks, trying to make sure we captured everything and then get it accurate as we can for you.
So this resolution that you want for the 19th of June, right?
Yeah, if we could say, I don't know what's acceptable to council, if it meets council's availability, and if we could do it in the morning.
So the morning of June the 19th.
Yeah, if that doesn't work, we could look at where's my calendar? Excuse me. Just to meet the provisions, that's the earliest. You could look at the 22nd or 23rd, either one of those dates. Just as long as we had time, if there was any adjustments that council chose, that we could have those in place and meet the meeting of June 24th. Otherwise, we're getting into July, and we wouldn't have another regular council meeting. Is it July 8th?
Well, what's wrong with June the 19th?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if all members of council are available.
I am not,
Okay.
but that's the start of my 2 weeks, so I'm okay with you guys going ahead without me being there. If I've got any questions or concerns, I'll forward it
And
prior to.
Would you be at the meeting of June 24th?
Yes.
Then? Okay, so then
Yes,
you
because
would
I'm
have a
still on
chance.
day shift then?
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Because
just
the
can't,
final-
I just can't be the
final approval
19th.
would be at the 24th meeting.
Okay.
So the 19th, just, it's a chance for public input,
Okay.
and we will live stream that meeting as well. So, and do that process. So if that works for council, at 9 o'clock on the 19th, you good with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
9
Friday,
o'clock, you
right?
said?
Yeah, 9 o'clock in the morning, yeah.
Are you good with that, Mike?
Do you know your schedule?
Yeah, I'm just checking it now. I should be off there for the 19th.
So any questions you'd want?
Well,
Early
you can
as
ask them-
possible Monday morning.
Well, that
for
way the
Tuesday.
managers will have time to get them ready for you
Right.
and have a thing, rather than, I don't want to see them on Tuesday. If they could answer the question for you, saying, I have to get back to you, we can get back to you before the Tuesday meeting is the idea. And I think there's lots of opportunity for discussion between the number of meetings we're going to have before the 24th. You have 2 more meetings yet, and a public input meeting as well.
Okay. To the chair, just before we go forward, on this operational budget, are there any, let's say, increases here that should be highlighted for us to take note of on that?
Oh, based on no percentage increase, it couldn't be.
No, but I'm just saying any particular areas that
Well,
jump out.
you have, like, on the left 2 columns, or left 3 columns are the 2020 cost, estimated revenues, and estimated expenses. So that's more or less, that's the summary of each department, each area of expenses, revenues, and then the net cost for the year. And then you have your 2019 cost, which is there, which is an actual, and then you have the variance, which is highlighted in green.
Okay,
So
so
anything in brackets is a negative, and anything not in brackets is a positive.
so under transportation, it was only estimated at $1,000, and it ended up being $1 million.
Where we at?
Let me just, it's
Oh, estimated revenues. Sorry.
revenue.
Yeah, it's a
yes.
revenue stream.
Oh,
in that one.
sorry. Okay, got it now.
Yeah, and the next column is the expenditures. Yeah,
We have this in here?
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
What exactly is housing?
That, that's 40 Manitou.
40 Manitou, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 40 Manitou. And we put something else, the other thing, just for council's information, last year they passed a resolution to clean up the property behind Lakeview Terrace towards the lake and
Right.
thin the bush. So there was a resolution of council to put that into this year's budget. The estimated cost was $3,500. So we didn't have a good place to put it, so we put it in the housing cost, and that's included in that budget to do that work as well.
Oh, so it has not been completed?
No, we didn't, because we, what the direction was last year was to include it in this year's budget. So we're here to budget it, and if it's so approved by council, we would go ahead with that.
Yeah, the resolution.
Yeah, do we have a copy of the resolution with us here as
I
well?
remember it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we passed the resolution.
Yeah.
So, okay, 9 a.m. on the 19th?
For that will be your public meeting, and Jolene will put the notice up and the process on how the public can provide feedback to council on the budget.
Okay, I'll read that resolution. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Scampanello, resolved that the date for virtual open house draft 2020 budget public meeting be held on June 19th at 9 a.m. And be it further resolved that staff shall advise the public on how to participate virtually during the COVID-19 pandemic. All in favor? Thank you. Are we concluded? Okay. Moved by Councillor Arola, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that the special meeting adjourn at the hour of 2:56. All in favor?